The Outerworlds, a game comparable to Fallout New Vegas due to the team who developed it, but it's just set in outer space. I'm Mantas, and today we're peering into an alternate future, a future that is ruled by the megacorporations that claim and gut planets for their own gain, with it all being overseen by these companies who form a faction called the Board. Taking place in a small star system known as Halcyon, there are 6 planets orbiting the Sun, and to get here you require a spacecraft that has a FTL drive. The story begins in 2285, where 2 colonist ships called the Groundbreaker and the Hope were dispatched to colonize the system. Groundbreaker successfully arrived and colonized the planets of Terra 1, otherwise known as Monarch, and Terra 2, but the Hope and its cargo mysteriously disappeared, with the Groundbreaker becoming a permanent outpost in orbit near Terra 2 as an individual port. 70 years later, your story starts. But first, let's cover development. The game is developed by Obsidian Entertainment, which should be a name very familiar to a lot of you. Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky, who originally created the Fallout series, served as the game directors and took inspiration from Fallout, Firefly, Futurama, Deadwood, and True Grit. They describe the game as a combination of Boyarsky's dark morbidity and Tim's silliness, and they hope to seek a balance between the silliness and the drama when creating the game tone and narrative, which I believe works quite well within the game. You can really see and feel the dry humour that is present in some interactions, especially when utilising the dialogue skills. Game development officially began in 2016, but was officially announced that it was being developed in 2017, with a trailer being released in 2018, linked down below. Initially released for Windows, PS4 and Xbox One, there was a little bit of backlash as on PC it was released on Epic Games and the Windows Store first, with the Steam release being delayed. Aside from that, the release was okay, receiving generally favourable reviews according to Metacritic, with particular praise on the soundtrack and for assembling an excellent cast of voice performers, with the main criticism being rigid characters during dialogue, the combat system not being as challenging. Despite this, they were nominated for many awards for the writing, voice acting and visual design, taking home 5 awards from the 2020 Navigator Awards and winning the Big Apple Award for the best game of the year. By February 2020, the game had sold 2 million units, and in August 2021, that number had doubled. Having covered the setting of the universe that the Outerworlds is built on, the story picks up in 2355, where the Hope is drifting on the outskirts of Halcyon. Discovered by the mad scientist Phineas Vernon Wells, he manages to revive one of the passengers, you, and informs you that the colonies have fallen on hard times due to the corporate greed and incompetence of the megacorporations that govern everyday life in the system. Due to the prolonged cryosleep, the main character has developed some amount of higher mental capability, allowing you to slow down time, or I suppose in the enemy's eyes, you speed up. Being told that you need to secure the resources and capability to revive the rest of the colonists, you get jettisoned in a pod to Terra 2, where the game really begins. I'm not going to cover every little detail. After all, I do want you to experience the story for yourself if you choose to play it. After a series of unfortunate events, you eventually take up a ship named the Unreliable, and it's piloted by an AI named Ada. After completing a series of quests and objectives within the Edgewater colony that decides the future of the small settlement and how their quality of life will be, you set off to the stars and end up visiting many different planets, meeting a fair few allies to help you along the quest, completing plenty of side quests, discovering new science weapons that are truly unique in the world, and of course, finishing your objectives set at the start of the game. There are 2 main endings of the game, with a secret third if your character has low intelligence, which is classic Obsidian. Combat in the Outerworlds is fun, in my eyes. I know some people have gripes with it, and critics also criticise it, but I genuinely have a good time. I think the fact that you can utilise both gunplay and melee efficiently and have a slow down time special ability to make combat pretty unique and interesting, especially as you level up each individual perk towards those skills. It felt like an evolution of combat from New Vegas, which you'd imagine it would evolve, and I can say Obsidian has done a great job. Even utilising your companion's special skills is fun and can literally change the tide of battle sometimes. I'm going to briefly cover all the science weapons that are in the base game because they are pretty fun weapons. Science weapons are definitely of note. They're unique and add a bit of flair to the sci-fi game. Aptly named due to their unique abilities, you have 5 different ones. The Gloop Gun, the Mandibular Rearranger, the Mind Control Ray, the Prismatic Hammer, and the Shrink Ray. The Shrink Ray does what it says on the tin, and on screen you can see some gameplay of me using it. It's about what you expect from the comedic tone of the Outerworlds. Prismatic Hammer is a melee weapon and allows you to use a sweep attack to damage multiple foes, with the second attack having blasts of energy come from the weapon, setting enemies on fire. It's worth noting that to utilise the majority of these weapons efficiently, you should have a fairly high science skill. Same as the Shrink Ray, the Mind Control Ray does what it says on the tin too. Shooting a continuous beam of energy at an enemy causes their mind to be overwhelmed and start attacking their allies. The Mandibular Rearranger is a one-handed melee weapon that slows enemies down and if used for long enough will eventually freeze them. And finally, the Gloop Gun. It shoots out a large glob of blue goop that sends enemies flying while simultaneously weakening them and shocking them. I'm aware the dialogue has been a point of complaint to critics and some regular players, and I get it. When you speak to NPCs, they do seem a bit lifeless and robotic sometimes, but they lack facial expressions and body language. But that's where the voice acting comes in. The voice acting is brilliant. What adds to this is the fact that the NPCs you speak to can even engage your companions in conversation, and those companions can give you their opinions on quest choices and different matters. The tone of voice and feeling is definitely there, so I need to get a round of applause for them, because they definitely add to the quirkiness and life of the game. Quests are pretty much what you'd expect in any RPG, especially an Obsidian one. The charm is all there, and there's plenty of side quests to look into whilst you complete the story. I mean, come on, one quest has you become Loan Shark Muscle and recover debts owed to a gravedigger. I found the quest to be pretty enjoyable myself, and the story of the game to be cohesive and engaging, with the fact that some choices that you make matter in the long run. Though you may not see the obvious effects, your character does make an impact on the planets they travel to. The best thing is that there is more than one way to complete a quest. There's not just one pathway to take in the majority of them. This can range from if you decide to approach quests in a stealth-like manner, or if you decide to brute force your way through intimidation, lie all the way to success to charm them to get more rewards than you would have got. If there's one thing the Outerworlds does well, it's the RPG elements of the game. It's really prevalent, and it feels like putting points into those skills actually makes an impact on the gameplay and your character. It wouldn't be an RPG game if there weren't companions, right? And the companions in Outerworlds certainly have their vibrant personalities, and every single one of them have their own goals and aren't afraid of voicing their opinions, if it's to agree with you or disagree. I think the way companions have been done is beautiful. Unique in their own way, and with unique quests to flesh out their characters and goals more. It's amazing. With a ship serving as a home base, you can speak to all of them in a moment's notice and swap them out as you go out and explore. Floors is another idea that I really loved from the Outerworlds. I think it's a really unique way of giving you a lot of variation, not only in gameplay, but tailoring your character to be unique. Everyone's got flaws, right? No one's a perfect individual, and usually in RPG games, you're seen as the light of heaven, the saviour of mankind. But in the Outerworlds, you can embrace your flaws and in return, get a perk point to spend. What flaws are there? Honestly, too many to count. Feel free to pause the video to read through the list, but you do get them from direct actions that you do within the game. Repeatedly take fall damage, you have acrophobia. Constantly overburdened, evidently you must have a herniated disc. Being hit in the head a little bit too much by bullets and blunt objects, then you have a permanent concussion. The beauty is that this system isn't forced on you. You don't have to accept the flaws, you can just deny and move on. The game has two DLC, Peril on Gorgon being released on September 9th, 2020 and Murder on Eridanos on March 17th, 2020. Each DLC adds multiple unique weapons, raises the level cap by 3 per DLC, meaning the cap is now 36, and also has many pieces of fashionable armour to try out as well. Character customization is further increased by adding different perks and flaws as well. Peril on Gorgon begins when you and your crew receive a package, but what does it contain? A severed arm that holds a cryptic message, leading you to the Gorgon asteroid that was a former science outpost that had countless disastrous experiments performed on it. Your main goal for this DLC is to explore the den of monsters and try to figure out exactly what happened and why the outpost was abandoned. You aren't solely stuck on the asteroid for the DLC, as the quest will take you to multiple locations around the Hyperion system, which gives you a nice variety, and for returning players lets them experience the world again after a lengthy break. I'm not going to spoil too much, but your companion characters have plenty of opinions on the story and who's behind it all, and of course you make the final choice. So the idea of character fantasy and you playing as yourself in an RPG game does make sense here. Murder on Eridanos serves as the second DLC in the Outerworlds universe. Legendary Etherwave actress Ruth Bellamy, otherwise known as Halcyon Helen, has been murdered. With all leads going dead, they seek the guidance of the stranger, you, the captain of the Unreliable. You take up the mantle of detective and try to work out who's behind the murder, whilst also getting embroiled in side quests where you can search your clues and work out who's behind what using the new discrepancy amplifier. Though from the outset there isn't a massive effect on the outcome of the story from the dialogue you have with most characters, though there are pivotal moments where things do matter, so your choices will change the outcome. For the most part, it lets you make the call. You make the call on a side quest and then see if you're right or wrong. If your intimidation is enough, you can just intimidate your way through dialogue options. I don't want to say too much about this one either, but I will say this. Though it doesn't add a great many things gameplay wise, the story is pretty good and the way you interact with characters is also fun. You get access to unique weaponry like the Rizzo gun that applies different effects due to the different Rizzo flavours. This DLC really egged you on to explore the environment, to try and find extra clues for quests to see if you can find concrete evidence for the wrongdoings of certain individuals, which I really loved. If you've took a break from the game and haven't played the DLC, then definitely give this a try. It won't change the gripes that some people had with the game, as it doesn't really fix any of the outstanding issues. I didn't face any personally. It's an amazing send-off for a game that clearly had a lot of love poured into it, and thankfully Obsidian have announced that the Outerworlds 2 is in production and will be with us within the next few years. Personally, I think that the Outerworlds is an amazing game. It's not outstanding to the sense of it's one of the best games of all time. I don't think it's the best RPG of all time, but it's a game that clearly was developed by people who love to make RPG games, who love to see all of that effort and work put into a world and universe and story pay off. I think it's really shown from when you play the game, see the story, see the characters, just see everything mesh well together. And I can't wait for the Outer Worlds 2 because I believe that's going to be an even better experience and evolve the pre-existing mechanics, but also give us a lot more to deal with. And I can't even imagine what other additions they're going to add to the game. So I think Obsidian have really got something good going with this IP. I know the game wasn't for everyone, and a lot of my friends bought it, played it, and said that it wasn't really for them. They didn't get a good feeling from it, and I guess that does appeal to some. I think a big issue with the game is people couldn't help but compare it to Fallout New Vegas simply because it was Obsidian that worked on it. And those two games, though they are RPGs, are completely different, and I think to judge them against each other is a very difficult thing to do, especially when it comes to nostalgia, as nothing sells better than nostalgia, and a lot of people have really good memories from playing Fallout New Vegas. So to finish off, I just want to say I hope you do take a closer look at the Outer Worlds. If you get it on sale, that's even better. The DLC just adds to the game and it's really, really good to play. I think the game is definitely worth a try if you have nothing else to play and you want to experience a new RPG that's pretty much story driven and also offers fun and unique combat. But I think that's it. There's not too much else to say. If you enjoyed the video, then please do like and subscribe to see similar content in the future. There's going to be a lot of World of Warcraft videos that I'm making since Dragonflight is now out, but I'm still going to be looking at different games and making kind of small reviews on them. But yeah, for now, thanks for watching and see you next time.